see, before the war, my parents were very proud people. They always talked about Japan, you know, and also about the samurais and stuff like that.
The bombing of Pearl Harbor and the entrance of the U.S. into the war, a lot of people saw that as a perfect opportunity to get rid of persons of Japanese ancestry.
Right after Pearl Harbor, everything just, you know, they were just real quiet. They kept it to themselves. They were afraid to talk about that. There had been so much friction between the United States and Japan, and the way Japan was so active going into China and doing all that, you know, invasion and so forth, that I had a feeling that, you know, they're just crazy enough to come down here. And that's what they did. At the nursery, my parents, they were all around the radio listening. They weren't saying very much. My mother was crying, my father was just disgusted. All that work that my parents did to that nursery and so forth, what's going to happen? A few days later, the police came down there and confiscated all the flashlights and cameras. They confiscated everything that they thought that we would use for signaling.
The Secret Service and the FBI had swept into the Japanese-American community and had arrested any community leader, any teacher, any civic organization head of any importance in that community.
I thought the exclusion order would be only for aliens, those that are born in Japan. I didn't think that the government would go as far as to include American citizens.
If you have the Western Defense Command who was in charge of our movement, if they come at you with a bayonet in your back and say you're going to move into a horse stall, you do.
The people that we thought were our friends, instead of helping us, they wanted to take things that they thought they could use themselves. That's because we couldn't take it with us. I went to San Francisco, first chance I had, and I talked to this doctor. I just told him that, you know, I've been harassed so much being an Asian that I would like to look more Caucasian. And he says, well, let me see what I can do. So I decided, well, I'll take a chance on it. He just slit my eyes, I guess, and took some of the skin off or something on both of my eyes. And that was it. It didn't work out right anyway. My mother recognized me. She knew me right away. Even my girlfriend didn't say too much. You know, I said, well, you look different anyway. You know, I felt uncomfortable was when I happened to glance at a newspaper or a newsstand where somebody looking at it, and it says Jap this and Jap that, you know, and all the bad things about the Japanese. I even refused to buy a paper because of that, you know. That was it until the time that I got caught. And then one day my girlfriend wanted to meet me. I was waiting for her at the corner, and she didn't show up. I ran out of cigarettes. So like a darn fool, I went across the street to the drugstore, and someone recognized me, I assumed, because when I came back and I was standing there for another 5 minutes, then the police came. And they looked around and looked at me and said, "Do you see any short Japanese person around here, Asian?" I said, "No." He looked at me and says, "Well, let me see your identification." By that time, the 2 MPs came in the military. And he says, "We have to take you to the city hall." After I was arrested, I never did see my girlfriend again. So there must have been something going on in there, but I didn't know.
We tried to find a legal challenge to the internment, but of course, in order to do that, you have to have a test case. So we were on the lookout to find a case of that kind. It wasn't easy until I heard of Fred Korematsu's case. in the newspapers.
The judge said, since you violated the military order, the bail is $5,000. And to my surprise, Mr. Bessick took out his checkbook and wrote it out without hesitation and gave it to the clerk. And he says, come on, Fred. He grabbed all of me and we start walking out. You can hear our footsteps clunk, clunk, clunk toward the door, and we finally got to the door. We opened the door and I said, wow, the sun shining right in our face. And then I looked real good. There was 4 MPs standing there. And Mr. Bessick said, we paid the bail. He's a civilian. And they would start pulling out the guns. And Mr. Bessick looked at me and he said, Fred, you go ahead and go with them, and I'll keep in touch with you. When the MPs took me to a separate room, well, it was a horse stall, and it was way out on the other side of the racetrack. And they took me there in a pickup. But it was a big door for to let horses in. There's a gap about 12 inches down below. There's no floor, it's just dirt. So the wind was blowing through there, and there's cracks all around the wall. And there was a light bulb up there, one light bulb on the ceiling, and that was it. And I went there and I lied on the cot and I said, gee, jail was a lot better than this.
I met Fred after his Supreme Court case had been decided, and later we married and eventually moved to California to live.
Well, my daughter Karen was, I believe, she's a junior in high school. She came home from one afternoon and said that in her social studies class, her friend Maya had given a report about the Japanese concentration camps, Japanese American concentration camps, and that they mentioned a Korematsu case, and she said, what is this all about? And I said, well, that's your father.
Well, you know, why did you never tell me about this? I mean, why wasn't anything ever talked about my father in this regard? I couldn't believe it. I was really upset. And she said basically that it was something that, it was a subject that my father chose not to discuss.